This is the overtone spectrum, and if you want to create mind-bending orchestrations, become very familiar with it. This is the way that stuff vibrates. Don't believe me? Then tell me, what instruments are playing this melody? This example is from Bolero by Maurice Ravel, and the instruments playing the melody here are two piccolo flutes, horn, and celesta, and I bet my life that you didn't guess that. Ravel has combined these instruments in such a way as to create a hybrid instrument sound, and it's mind-blowing. It's a completely new orchestral sound using very typical orchestral instruments. But how does he do it? When you hear a note, you're not hearing just one pitch, but rather a whole range of pitches within that note that we refer to as overtones. So let's say we take a low A on piano, for example. Its overtone series would look like this. All of these pitches are inside of that low A. And the maths behind these overtones is also very simple, but very beautiful. The fundamental frequency, the low A, has a frequency of 55 Hertz. Now, what does that mean? Hertz is the number of vibrations, oscillations, beats, pulses, clicks, claps, slaps, whatever you want, per second. If you do something 55 times a second, then you will hear this pitch. The first overtone vibrates at twice the speed of the fundamental, so 2 times 55, which would be 110 Hertz. The second overtone vibrates at triple the speed, so 3 times 55, then 4 times 55, 5 times 55, 6 times 55, and so on. And this mathematical principle works regardless of what your fundamental is. So if I have, for example, 100 Hertz, and then add 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, and so on, then I get this overtone series. Now, when we look at the notes themselves, you can see that the intervals start large and then they get smaller. So we start with an octave, then we have a fifth, a fourth, a major third, a minor third, an even smaller minor third, a large second, a normal second, and so on. Also, the higher we go, the more microtones you'll see. These are notes that are outside of the traditional European music system. For example, the 10th overtone on our low A would be a D quarter tone sharp. It's 51 cents higher than a regular D, so it sits almost exactly in between D and D sharp. And because of all of these microtones, you might assume that this constellation of notes would be very dissonant. But what's crazy is that because of its mathematical perfection, the overtone series is perfectly consonant to our ears. Our brains are used to hearing these pitches because we hear them all of the time. If you want to play around with this yourself, you can try out this program I made called Frequency to Pitch. It's a calculator that translates a frequency into a notated and audible pitch. Link is in the description. Now, what's interesting is that when we hear these overtones played together, our ears summarize these overtones as sound color. The reason piano, for example, sounds like piano is because of its overtone series, but not necessarily because of the pitches, but because of their amplitude, how loud each overtone is. This here is a spectrogram of our low piano A from before. Each of these lines represents the overtones we looked at before, and you can see that they're all evenly spaced because they're all 55 Hertz apart from one another. However, some of the lines are brighter than others, and this brightness represents how loud the frequencies are. You can see that in general, the higher you go, the weaker the overtones will be. But in any case, it's this exact loudness or balance between the overtones that tells our ears that the note is played by, for example, a piano. Here is the overtone spectrum of an oboe, of a flute, of a violin, and of a trombone. As you can see, they're all slightly different. So what does this have to do with orchestration? Pitch and sound color are very closely related and can influence one another. Let's go back to Ravel. Horn and celesta both play the melody in C, but what's weird is that piccolo 1 and 2 are playing the exact same melody but in the keys of G and E. This is the first chord down an octave. Do you notice something? It's the first 5 notes of the overtone series in C: octave, fifth, 4th third. And this isn't a normal harmonization. Ravel just shifts this overtone structure up and down with the melody. And what's also crazy is that he's even imitated overtone balance. Horn is the loudest, then celesta, then piccolo. Because we hear this constellation of overtone pitches all day, every day, when this is played tight and really together by an orchestra, our ears can't separate the pitches anymore, and instead we just hear a hybrid instrument, a new sound color. Now you might be thinking, but how does this work? Each instrument also has its own overtones, so if you artificially create an overtone sound with these instruments, won't their overtones clash? Well, no! If you look at the overtone series, it contains the overtone series of each of its overtones. It's overtone inception! When piccolo plays G, all of the overtones in that note are already inside of the horn's C. All you're doing is you're changing the balance within that overtone structure, which creates a different sound color. Now, I'm not saying that we should write our melodies like this. This comes with its own caveats and problems, and Ravel, well, he really knew what he was doing. This is only one example of what the overtone series can teach us about composition and orchestration, and in the future, I'm going to be showing you some other really crazy things. I just want to encourage you to spend some time truly understanding the overtone series. Go watch some more videos, play around with some programs, get to know it deeply, because it will unlock some amazing musical potential for you.